And welcome to a new Energy Crew podcast with me, your host, JP Warren. And I want to give a shout out to my wife. Mike, I'm not sure if you know this, but she was the one that put that banger together for the intro and outro music of Energy Crew podcast.
Well, she nailed it, man.
She nailed it. And I want to thank everyone out there for tuning in. We are back for new rounds of conversations with leaders, movers, and shakers, and trying to find out what their passion is, what drives them, what their strengths are, and or what their struggles are as well, and just kind of try to have a conversation and to inspire, to connect, to maybe understand that what you're struggling with is not, you're not alone. There's other people facing the same challenges and the same passions. This is brought to you by Exec Crew. Exec Crew is going to be a new professional executive networking member group that's going to be launching in Q4. We're going to be bringing in leaders, executives, founders, aspiring leaders to share their passions, where the idea is everyone could be a teacher and everyone could be a student. And we're going to be bringing people in to connect, support, grow, and really just kind of expand your connections there. So you want to learn more, check out connectioncrew.com, head over to Exec Crew and pre-register there. So Michael Hale, I think that is the finale of my intros, and I want to welcome you to the show. Thanks for coming on yet again. And those that don't know Michael Hale, you can go back. I think we did this. When did we do this? 2021 or
March
2?
Of 2021, maybe? Was it 21?
Was it 21?
It might have been 22. I don't know.
All right, look, I think from the years 21, 22 up to like middle of like 2023. It's all been a blur. So, again, for those that don't know, Michael Hale, he is the vice president of exploration over at Novo Oil and Gas, sitting up in beautiful Oklahoma City. And I've been fortunate and blessed enough to know Michael over the past couple years and call him a really good friend. So I'm excited to have you on. You're definitely one of the most intelligent, interesting, and smartest and funniest cats I know. So I'm glad we're gonna be doing this. So.
The fact you say that means you don't know me that well. So.
Michael, I think you try to put your headphones on. There's a little delay, and as you do that, I'm going to keep on rambling about what I don't. Oh, you have a gamer headphone.
You bet.
Is that what you use? Is that what you use to play Xbox? He's connecting it. All right. So anyway, so everyone out there. So the new direction of Energy Crew podcast is if you're enjoying it, please share, tell people about it, leave a review if you'd like on wherever you're listening this to, and that helps definitely spread the word and maybe help inspire others in their search of passion and insight. And right now we're doing some technical issues with a headphone setup to get better audio, so you can download and absorb these nuggets of knowledge a little bit quicker. You let me know when you're ready, Mike.
Can you hear me better now?
Oh man, you are like right next to me, brother. I love it.
Sweet. Yeah, and you mentioned that these are gamer headphones. So as you know, I'm a gamer. My wife bought these for me as a gift, and then it turned out I could, for some reason, could not link them to my Xbox, and so.
What?
Yeah, so I waited so long to try and link them because I had other headphones that were working just fine, and I was thinking, I'll just wait until these other guys break, and then I'll upgrade to these. And turns out, since I couldn't link them, I just had this really expensive headset that was useless. So I brought it up here to work, and now I look like a.
You look great. You look great.
Look like I'm playing Halo on the job.
That's never a bad thing to do. So, Michael, why don't you get us kicked off a little bit and kind of give us a kind of a brief elevator summary on who you are and all that fun stuff. And let's get kicked off on kind of what sparks your passion.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been working oil and gas for 15 years. I am actually from North Carolina. Moved out here, worked for a small consulting firm called Frontera Geosciences for like a year and a half. Then went to Sandridge, was there for 3.5 years. I was just a geologist. Left Sandridge and I went to go work for Aubrey McClendon at American Energy Partners.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first geologist hired over there, working level geologist. There were some managers, but I took over the Utica team and was the team lead there for like 5.5 years or a little less than that. And then I moved to Novo in September of 2018. So I've been here for coming up on 5 years.
When did Novo get kicked off?
Actually like August of 2016.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, obviously I haven't spent much time up in Oklahoma until I started doing the crew club events. But yeah, Nova was kind of flying under my radar. So I've really enjoyed meeting everyone that your team over there. I mean, you brought me to a couple of lunches, and I brought a couple of people to some crew club
Yeah.
events. It's always good getting to know the people that you get to spend your time with at work. Some solid people over there.
Well, Novo is, we always kind of like to say, our company is like our acres position. It's small but mighty. I mean, I know it's funny, but it's honest.
I like it though.
Yeah, we're a very small company. It's only 25 of us, but I'll be honest with you, this is the most hardworking and hard playing and most technically gifted team of individuals I've ever worked with, and I think our asset directly reflects that. Um, we managed to sneak in to an area in the northern Delaware where surrounded by a lot of the big guys, ones that you would know if I mentioned them,
Yep.
and put together a massive block of acreage right under their noses, and they did not realize what they had. And I think it was something that we were able to exploit, and that can only be done with, people who obviously can see the potential in something, have the hard work and the grit to get it done. And yeah, I'm so incredibly lucky to be a part
What's
of this team.
What's more important in your eyes, do you feel, when it comes to something like that? Is it the kind of the visionary view on things, or is it the hard work, grit, get it done mentality?
Well, I really think it's everything, right? You need to have, within any organization, you need to have people that can organize thoughts and can direct things, but you also need people who are capable of getting in the weeds and being, diligent, like a certain amount of doggedness, right? It's like a indefatigable zeal.
Yeah.
They have to be able to just continue on with it all the time. And in a landscape like the northern Delaware, Eddy County, New Mexico, I think it requires it more so than anywhere else, because in a lot of ways, we are trying to develop acreage in probably the most hostile state towards our industry in the entire country,
Okay.
and it's like, the irony is that the country benefits more from oil and gas than it does from any other industry, and yet for some reason they do every single thing they can to make our lives incredibly difficult.
Right.
And so you have to, be committed to dealing with that, and they hold you up at every opportunity. It takes, it's taken us as much as like 18 months to get permits towards the end. And this is like really with just like hound dogging it all the time. I think we got down to like 9 months on some of our permits, but you're still looking at like, probably on average, like a year to 14-month delay between the time you file a permit and you're able to actually like drill a well. And,
Wow.
when you're trying to put together a big acreage position and you're trying to do all that, it's like, and I mean this, it is years of work trying to file hundreds of permits and get them all organized and making sure that they can all be ready to go by the time a rig moves on location, and just keep that going, because it is, yeah,
It
it's
sounds.
just,
I mean, it sounds. It sounds like it sounds not only challenging. You're obviously going uphill. You're fighting uphill. You're on an
yeah,
uphill battle. But it sounds very redundant too. So
it is.
to
Yeah.
have people do the same thing for 18 months, so hopefully this permit gets approved, because you still don't know if it's gonna be approved or not. It's just that's teamwork. That's kind of everyone, a village kind of moving in the same direction. That's challenging. That is challenging.
Yeah, no, that I think that's exactly right. And so, kind of getting back to your original question, you said like, what's more important, the vision or, the hard work? It's both, because without the vision, you can't really see what this can become. And it's real easy when you're doing that same work over and over and over again every day to lose sight of why you're doing it, because it
Yeah.
becomes so monotonous. And so, you know, it becomes almost like you start to hate it, and you're like, I don't even know why I'm doing this,
No,
because
I
you
mean,
feel like,
I've talked to a bunch of people that at other different small companies, looking at deals, especially since 2020, whatever that is, or 2019, 2020. And don't get me wrong, it sounds extremely exciting, going in, looking at acreage, looking at this, looking at that, going to the data rooms and all that stuff. but also it sounds extremely repetitive and I mean, a lot of work with not a lot of result. I mean, not a
Yeah.
lot of results you can see, because at the end of the day, you can walk away and do the same amount of work, the 70 hours, 80 hours a week, and walk away saying, okay, well, now we got to do 70 or 80 hours a week on something else, and we'll probably get the same result, which might be nothing.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's I think we're dealing with a lot of that sort of thought process right now. Obviously we haven't talked about this yet, but like Novo, it was announced, I guess what, 3 weeks ago, something like that. I was at Urtech when it was announced, but the Novo has been purchased by a combination of Earthstone and Northern Oil and
Yep.
Gas,
Yep.
and now it's like we're obviously working incredibly hard to get this across the line and make sure that we're good stewards and we're passing this on to Earthstone in the best condition imaginable. But I'm also trying to juggle my thoughts on like what is next, and the trying to decide like is the 70 to 80 hour weeks trying to kick this off going to be worth it, right? Because it's like it's hard to imagine that you can hit a home run twice in a row.
But it's also one of those things too. I mean, yes, you want to get this off the bat, but there's also that anxiety of like, okay, what's after this? What's
Yeah.
chapter, 2 for me, or 3 or 8, 9, 10, whatever. What's this next
Yes.
chapter look like? So that's a lot of moving pieces going on internally.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You have to believe in yourself, right? And you have to be willing to say that, like, in the end, all of this will pay off. And yeah, I'm going to have to slog through it, and it's probably going to be tough on myself, my mental state, my family, but I do this for them anyway.
But okay,
So,
let me ask you a question though. Where's the balance? I mean, look, at the end of the day,
well,
yeah, we all do this for our families and all that stuff. But at the same time, I mean, sometimes we come home, Monica's like, "Hey, I get you're doing this for us, but I want to
yeah,
see you too." So,
yeah, no, you're right.
how are you striking balance in this?
Well, I definitely try really, really hard to not bring work home with me. It's actually even very rare that I even bring my computer home. I kind of only bring my computer home with me when I anticipate that, like, I know something really timely is kind of on the horizon and needs to be dealt with. The rest of the time, I just try to bifurcate that life and say, no, I leave work at the office and my home life stays at home. And I, it's difficult though, because even though you don't have your computer with you, that doesn't mean that your mind is not engaged.
And that
And
doesn't mean you don't have your phone right next to you too.
yeah, yeah, and I definitely find myself dealing with that a lot, where I'm thinking about work even when I'm not at work. I'm monitoring my phone for Teams messages or for emails, text messages from people, and I know that it makes my wife feel, I'm certain that she is you know, second best. And that's not the case, but it's like
I
the
get it.
only way, the only way I can describe it is like you become addicted to success, right? It's like you want to succeed so badly, and that one taste of success makes you want to taste more of it. And you know that only comes with hard work. That
But look,
only is achievable through sacrifice. And so you're willing to make those sacrifices, but you also understand that, like, I don't want to sacrifice the things that are really important to me. I don't want to sacrifice my family time, but I
but there,
also am doing it so that I can make sure that your future is set out.
that point about success is extremely interesting to me, because not only, once you hit that a big success story, you hit that, or home run or whatever it is. You're right. That feeling it's not a secure feeling. It's even if, let's say, you sell X multiple or whatever, it's still not a secure. I don't have this experience, but I can only imagine after, I have dealt with, certain level of successes when it comes to this, but you're never left with that sense of fulfillment or that sense of security, because
Yeah.
you are thinking about, okay, what does the next chapter look like? I really haven't changed personally. Like, I'm still, what we're using the same toothbrush. I'm still driving the same car. So yeah, I mean, you can pull up an app, and yes, your life has changed a little bit, but at the same time, is you still have to pour a certain sense of survival mode into that next success story, the next success chapter.
You, you're absolutely correct. Something I always kind of like jot down rules that I think are like good to sort of live by. I've kind of got this list in my office, and one of them is essentially, don't chase happiness, chase contentment. And I think the main reason for that is like, if you're constantly chasing happiness, if you always think that the next thing, the next success is going to make you happy, you're going to be woefully disappointed. It just doesn't work that way. The reality is you have to be happy in the moment. You have to be happy in the situation that you're in. I don't know if you're familiar with like Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He was a psychiatrist that was a Jew that was imprisoned in the Auschwitz concentration camp during, Nazi Germany.
Yep.
And while he was there, he essentially had to tell himself that, like, I'm doing this to see my family again, right? I'm
Okay.
going to survive so that I can see my family again. But the reality is that in order to get through that, you have to embrace the fact that, like, nothing about this is a good situation, right? Like, I am my fate in a lot of ways is outside of my own hands.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
everything that is within my own hands, I will go to whatever lengths to achieve that. And the sad thing is that at the end of the day, he was the only one that survived. His parents and his wife all were killed in the concentration camps, but he still credited that desire to get through and see them again as the reason why he made it. And Admiral James Stockdale said the exact same thing when he was in the POW camps in Vietnam. And actually, that phenomenon has been called the Stockdale Paradox. It's about basically having unwavering faith that you will succeed, even while you are having basically a brutal acceptance of the grim circumstances in which you find yourself in. And in a lot of ways, I find that is what oil and gas is like, in a way, in a much more toned down way. I'm not at all in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Just,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, just hear me out. No, definitely not saying we are a Vietnamese POW camp or a Nazi prison camp.
Auschwitz, right?
But in a lot of ways, the oil and gas industry, it's like there's a lot of things, especially if you're going to be in a small E&P company. There's a lot more pressure than there is at a big company. This is just undeniable. I can tell you because I've worked for both. There's that, but then on top of that, there are all these things outside of your control, like just market fluctuations,
absolutely.
geopolitical events, all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about COVID, and it's weird because COVID, a lot of companies would probably say COVID was the worst thing that ever happened to them. I think about all the companies that got shut down,
Right.
all the small E&Ps that got smashed into other people, those like smash co's or like rolled up. And Novo, I would actually look back on COVID and say it was the best thing that ever happened to us. And I think it was actually because of things like the Stockdale Paradox. You can look at the situation, you see that it is a grim reality in which oil is, either trading negative like it did, at that one day, it was like negative $47
That was
a barrel.
April 20th.
Yeah. Negative $47 a barrel, or just even in the aftermath, the months afterwards, where it was hanging out around like, between like $30 and $40. And you can look at that situation and say, we're done. Like, how on earth are we ever going to make this happen? Or you can look at it like we did and we can say, all right, we're all going to take pay cuts. We're going to get through this. We need to be flexible. We need to pivot when necessary. And we want to be, once things show that they are, livening up a bit and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, we were one of the first people to put rigs on the ground. And it actually was one of the best things that ever happened to us, because we were able to drill a whole bunch of really, really high return wells that would have been strong at, $10 million AFEs. And we were drilling them at 6 because, because we took advantage of the fact that there was a market downturn, and a lot of companies were desperate to, get their employees out there working, get their rigs running, all that. And so, I look at that and I say that that's like a perfect example. Just taking advantage and not giving up and seeing what something can be, despite how horrible it looks.
Well, so switching to I guess the passion role of the conversation. I mean, how does one stay passionate in not just this industry? So we're in the oil and gas industry, and that's just plagued by negative public perception. In reality, not a vocal unappreciation towards kind of the benefits of reliable, affordable energy and how it's fine. How do people in industries or situations that you find yourself in like this, whether it's 78 hours a week doing the same thing, not the results, everything around the world, the dumpster fires all around you. How do you have that? What is it called? The Schumberg? What is it? What is it? The Vietnam POW guy.
Oh, the Stockdale Paradox.
Yeah. How do you find your passion, and how do you keep your passion churning and burning and turning it up in an environment like this?
I don't know like how you do it. It's just what I do. I mean, I think getting to a place like Novo, it's like you only get here by being a high performer. And I think that every single person here I would kind of describe as like, we only have one speed and it's fifth gear. You know what I mean? It's just, and that's the reason that you wound up here because, I think Tim Thaler and John Zimmerman, our founders, did such an amazing job of basically putting in, people in management positions that they felt like were, top performers, but then also had a vision for what they wanted their departments to look like. And I think that is really one of the most important things is about finding the right personalities, the right attitude. That matters. Attitude matters more than almost anything else. I've always kind of felt like whenever I interview people for jobs, I actually typically don't even care about your resume at all. Anyone can make their resume look amazing.
Yeah.
I care about you as a person. I want to know about your hobbies. I want to know whether or not I can spend 40 hours a week with you, because the truth is I feel like either I or someone in this team can teach you how to do anything you don't know how to do, but I can't teach you not to be insufferable.
And then that's a thing too. I mean, a bad attitude is it's cancerous to an organization. Yes. I mean, a good attitude's great. I mean, it's great to have, but a negative attitude that's something that can start poking holes in the ship. I mean, that's extremely important for people to look at.
Yeah, and when you think about like the phenomenon of the Stockdale Paradox, it really comes down to attitude, right? It comes down to unwavering faith or trust in yourself that you will succeed. And that can only be done through a very strong mindset. This about me. I am a diehard soccer fan.
Football.
I love it. Yeah. Football. It's my favorite. I went to the World Cup in 2014 in Brazil. It's like something I've been passionate about forever. It's my favorite sport. I'm a big Manchester United fan, and anyone listening to this, if they know anything about Manchester United, have a long history of success, but the last 10 years they've been absolutely garbage, and it's been like painful to watch. Just gross mismanagement, everything. But last summer they hired this Dutch coach. His name is Erik ten Hag, and he brought in a couple of key players. And between everything that's happened in the last 10 years and what happened last season, it was just unrecognizable. The team was, completely different. This was definitely a team that people feared playing. Manchester United actually wound up playing more games than any other team in all of Europe last year because they went so far in every single competition. And when the press journalist asked Erik ten Hag, what changed between last year and this year? And he just said, attitude, mindset. He said, I brought in a few people that were winners, and you'll notice that you look at the same people, or if you look at history, you'll notice that it's the same players that win trophies over and over and over again. It doesn't matter where they go.
Right.
And it's because they bring that mindset with them. They will not fail. They won't accept failure.
I mean, I think you reflect back on that on anybody listening. I mean, we all have experience in previous roles where there is previous roles, companies, environments where that attitude is negative. It's very disgruntled. It's very this and very that. And whenever that starts happening, first off, it starts creating a masses for that. People start people love negative stuff. They love gossip. They get attracted to that. And so when that happens, I mean, it kind of becomes a little snowball. I mean, so I can definitely relate to that to a couple previous roles that I've had. And you're right, it does affect you. It does affect the entire team, the entire organization. However, when you do switch that to the other side, when you do have the motivators, the mindset, the positive mindset, the viewpoints, and kind of the holistic, outlooks on things, that's inspiring, so
It
you
is.
do want to kind of give more. So I think that's a great point. I mean, it's definitely a lot attitude, mindset.
Yeah. And so just to kind of sum up, you mentioned like, how do you stay passionate? I think it's easy to stay passionate when you're surrounded by other people that are passionate. It's infectious.
So let me ask
And
you, okay,
no,
finish that.
well, no, I was just gonna say, as long as no one succumbs to the negativity, or no one, buys in on this idea that somehow it's just all tragic and we're gonna fail, then you're always gonna come out okay. We've all got each other's backs and we fight for each other. And
Yeah. But just having that reassurance that you're on the right path with the right people, with the right mental state. So in your situation right now, obviously you have a lot going on. You have a
yeah,
lot on your plate right now. What is something, I guess, that you've been spending your time focused, that you've been kind of whether it's leading others or whether it's kind of motivating yourself? What are some things that you're kind of find yourself to kind of diving into a little bit more, or spending a little bit more of your time, or something you just kind of want to communicate that from your own personal experience of being in the situation where your company does sell? What's next? What's this? You're trying to make sure everything kind of gets dotted and signed off correctly, but then you're also thinking, so what's going on right now in your mind, and where are you finding, I guess, your passion, I guess, or your motivation to kind of keep moving forward?
well, I mean, it's kind of a interesting question, because like, I've probably been more stressed out lately than I think I've ever been in my entire life. And it's
Let's talk
weird
about that.
because, well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good problem to have, but it's also, you have to deal with it. You have to find healthy outlets to like not, you know, like just get down about it. But like, you work so hard on something. And the thing is you build something like Novo built with the
Right.
intention to sell.
Right.
You want to sell. That's the benchmark of success.
You're where you're exactly you want it to be when you
Right.
start a business. Yeah.
But then you finally sell, and then you're overwhelmed with thoughts of, okay, so what next?
Yeah.
You know, how do I deal with uncertainty going forward? How do I find a way to look out for people that have put their trust in us, that are not going to be as financially, you know, well taken care of as maybe some of us
Yeah.
are?
Yeah. Naturally.
And it's, I think it's a heavy burden to bear, but I've been trying to take it very seriously, and I've been trying to think really hard about making sure that we can find something for everyone.
So in a situation like your own, honestly, that's fine. I mean, I think this is an extremely important part of a extremely important conversation to have, because there are a lot of people, not just in leadership positions like yourself, but whatever position they are in their life, they are met with, whether it's a huge success achieving their goals, and that void feeling of, of what you expect to be this liftoff, elevated feeling, is you have this weighted reality fog, I guess. If I was to describe it,
No,
personally,
that's right.
I think this is a great conversation to have. Whether it's, obviously this is not a passion fueled conversation, but this is a real world conversation. I think can probably help other people that do have that feeling of lack of whatever it is, or maybe keeping a team behind you when you're kind of going through these tumultuous times that you don't know what the other side looks like.
Right.
Where do you find, I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of people, not just on your team, but other teams that have kind of dealt through this, and we've talked, we know some of the same people, but do you find, I guess, bringing the troops together and rallying people up, or is it one of those times where you have a conversation with people, say, look, you're going through this, I'm going through this too, and kind of having that transparency conversation, like, hey, look, we are all in the same boat. I mean, let's cut the shit. Like, we are going through the same stuff, and let's talk about that. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, what you just said is accurate. And what I mean by that is, I have had those conversations with people. I noticed From the moment Novo announced the sale, I like immediately stopped sleeping as much. Like I noticed I was waking up a lot in the middle of the night,
Yep.
and I would lose. I was always like hoping that I would wake up at 1 a.m. instead of 3, because if I woke up at 1, I might be awake for an hour, but at least I knew I
Go
would go
back to
back to
bed.
sleep. But if I woke up at 3, I was usually just like, I'm up. I
Yep.
might as well get out of bed. I'm gonna go have coffee and go upstairs and start playing Destiny.
That's right.
But yeah, silver lining. Uh,
Silver lining to that stress that keeps you up. Yes. Yes. Way to be
but
positive.
but yeah, I noticed that other people were dealing with similar things, or at least I was seeing it on their faces, or just in the way they would all of a sudden react to certain things. And so I took it upon myself to start talking to them then, but I've been trying really hard to talk to them more now that things are shaken out. And I try my hardest to just reassure them that, like, look, you know, you need not worry. Like, you will we will find you something, or we'll help you find something, but you also will have money coming in. Um, I think it's in your best interest to go ahead and try and, polish off your resume and get that out there. But I just want you to know that, like, behind the scenes, people are working hard to try and find a solution to this.
So it's transparency.
Yeah.
What about you personally? I mean, waking up early. I mean, obviously your mind's racing. You get home. Your body may be at home, but your mind may be elsewhere. How are you, I guess, coping or dealing or processing or finding, I guess, healthy outlets and all that? I mean, how are you processing this weird, strange, exciting times?
Well, I just all of a sudden recently, I just kind of came to terms with it and decided that there's no point sitting here and like thinking about it and stressing out. So I've actually been trying really hard to spend as much time with my family and my daughters as possible. Like, uh, it's been really nice. I feel like I get home and, we just try to go outside and do something, go for a walk or whatever.
Right.
And that's how I've been not thinking about it. And I
Okay,
think it,
now let me ask you a question. When you are with your children and all that stuff, when you are with your little girls and all that stuff, are you able to kind of like cut off, the corporate side of you, and you can just kind of dive in?
yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, right now, I don't know why it is. But yes, at the moment, that's exactly what's going on. I feel like for some reason, there's like, it's like the show Severance, somehow
Great.
the
Yes.
announcement of the sale created some type of surgical procedure in my brain where my work and home life have been completely bifurcated. And now it's like when I come home, I'm just trying not to bring work with me, more so than ever. So
Has there been a point since, obviously, 3 weeks ago or something like that until now where I guess the curious stress anxiety ball is, is there a way, is it continuing to inflate, or is it deflating a little bit to allow space for, I guess, the excitement of things? I mean, what's
I think
going
it's
on?
deflating.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. And actually, I mean, you made the statement. You said maybe this isn't a passion-fueled conversation, but the truth is, it kind of is. Like, here's the good side of things: is that I've been more stressed than ever, but at the same time, I'm trying to come to terms with it. I'm trying to, if anything, it's the Stockdale Paradox all over again. I'm looking at my situation and I'm saying, all right, I have no clue what is going to happen in the future. I don't know if I'm even going to get a job. One thing that sucks for somebody like me is, let's be honest, I have a vice president in front of my, you know, title,
Yeah.
and you give someone a resume with that on there, and all of a sudden they think that you don't know what being a geologist is, that like somehow you're only, out there managing people or whatever. And the truth is at a small company, vice president is a geologist. Like,
Yeah.
I spend 90% of my day making maps, not 90% of my day in meetings. Like, I make maps, I come up with ideas, I develop prospects, but I fear that I'll never be able to sell that to people. And so in the event that like a Novo 2 or something like that doesn't spin up, then I worry that like I'm not marketable. But it is that grim reality that also I think makes me think to myself, well, then I'm not going to rely on anyone else. And so, I do still spend a lot of my time trying to think of ideas. I jot them down. I keep them. And I think that, you know, in the not too distant future, once Novo is completely wrapped up, I think I will be ready to go pretty hard and try to get something going. So I spent a
Okay.
lot of time thinking about it.
You said, I find, I mean, I get in the same boat. I mean, I stay up here, and then the next thing you starts kind of snowballing. It starts kind of, you know, you get on, you know, the spin wheel starts going and going, and that I feel like whenever I start thinking like that, it just the thought, the process of thinking just creates more stuff. And then actually, I come downstairs. You know, I'll be upstairs with my wife, and I'll be just like, my mind's going. I'm disconnected. I'm obviously not, you know, there, you know, enjoying time with my family. I'll come downstairs. I'll just like you, I find it healthy to just jot stuff down.
Yeah.
You know, if once it's put down, whether it's on a piece of paper or a dry erase board, it's not holding space in your mind anymore. That because you can reference it, you know, at a later point. So I think a good takeaway from this, I think, would be the simple process of just kind of putting your thoughts to paper, putting your thoughts to a dry erase board. It kind of helps you kind of take a step back, get that 30,000-foot view, and kind of put things in perspective.
I have a little like leather. I mean, you could call it a journal. I don't really use it for a
Diary.
journal. Yeah, it's a diary.
It's a diary with a
It
lock
is.
on it.
A heart lock.
Of course it is.
But I have it right next to my bed, and it's because when I wake up in the middle of the night, if I am all of a sudden having I would call them blizzards. You know, it's a blizzard of ideas. It's one of those ones where it's like thoughts are moving so fast past your eyes, you can't even focus on one from another. By the time you tried to focus on that one snowflake, 20 more have passed you by, and so you get a little bit discombobulated. But if you pull out that little notebook and you just jot things down as they sort of occur to you, you at least cement them in time. And it's, you know, I'm not getting every little bit of it, but I do feel like I am building up a pretty strong catalog of like ideas or things to remember to, you know, talk about, or people to remember to call and talk to about potential things. And so I feel like, you know, just rather than waiting for somebody to put me out of my misery, I'm hoping that I can take it upon myself and
I always find
get it
whenever I
going.
wake up at night, you know, 3 in the morning, 2:30, 3 in the morning, my mind does start going like that. It's always, you know, two things. It's always doom and gloom, you know, like doom and gloom, like it's about to hit the fan, everything's about to fail, you're gonna be a failure, or it's like the most creative stuff that I've ever thought of, you
Yeah,
know, like, oh my gosh,
absolutely.
this is great. And you're right. I have found, honestly, I was listening to this podcast, and this guy was talking about this, and actually started doing this. You know, I'll wake up now and my mind will start racing, and not rather than put stuff down, I'll just tell myself, you know, out loud, like, hey, good stuff, not right now. Think about this, you know, when you wake up, but not
Yeah.
right now. And for some reason, it works. It's helped me.
I need to do that because for some reason there's like I just submit to it. I just like the moment I wake up, I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm up for an hour. And then
Yeah.
I just kind of let my mind race a little bit. And eventually I always sort of start to feel myself lull back into it. And then I start to do what I always do, which is think about space and the infinite cosmos and traveling through it. And then I pass out. That's how it
I
always
love,
works.
I
Yeah.
love that. Have you seen this is a tangent. Have you seen 65 million years ago?
Uh, no, not yet. I want to see that though.
Yeah. Monica and I watched it last night. Let me know what you think. It's
Okay.
pretty. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Just let me know what you think.
I will say that your facial expression very
Okay.
much matches what my expectations are. So at least, yeah.
That works. So, okay, so journaling stuff down, being transparent with people. So, how else? I guess what tips or tricks, I guess, or outlooks do you have when it comes to people that are kind of in your shoes, not in your shoes of this exciting Novo sell and all that stuff, but in the shoes of transition, in the shoes of success when you're not sure what the next thing looks like. I mean, what what's some of your insights that you've done personally that might be that you'd share that could or maybe could not help people out there? I guess in the same stage that you're in.
Well, I mean, I think amazingly enough, I've talked to a lot of people that have been in this situation, and it sounds like everyone goes through it. So, you
So
know, it's,
support group.
yeah, support groups to a certain extent, you know. I talked to you earlier about like, you know, how success sort of, you know, it's like every success makes you kind of want to chase another success.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing, you know, obviously, but the problem is that you do run into that issue, like I mentioned with Novo, where it's like, okay, well, all right, success catalyzes more success, yet how the hell am I ever going to succeed in the way or at the scale or magnitude that we did with this? And it becomes a bit overwhelming. But, you know, once again, you have to sort of recalibrate your thoughts. You have to think to yourself, like, don't go into it with these grandiose expectations. Don't go into it thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to get another 5x. Like that's unrealistic.
And this could happen, you know, in the next 18 months. Yeah.
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 It just go into it because you love it. Go into it because you're passionate about it. You know, I can absolutely tell you that, like, I want to keep working. I want to keep doing something. I want to keep my mind fresh. I want to challenge myself.
Right.
And that's what I want to keep doing. And if I fail, fine. I fail, but it's because I tried. But I'm not going to go into it thinking that it's ever going to be like Novo was, because if I went into it that way, then I almost certainly would fail.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up for a failure right off the bat.
That's exactly right. You need to just go into it because you want to be passionate about it. You know, one good thing is to just think about it from this way. You want to be your own boss again, don't you? You don't want to. I can tell you, I've worked for big companies and I loved it. You know, I was at Sandridge for 3.5 years. I loved my time at Sandridge. I left because I felt like the time was right. I went to Ascent Resources. I loved it there. I thought Ascent was one of the best
I
companies
love
to
those
work
cats
for.
over there.
Yeah,
Good people over there.
Great people. Yeah,
Oh,
really
yeah.
great people. I felt like the team that they built is a bunch of people with a similar mindset to
Yeah.
Novo. It's just a much bigger environment. And I left really because I had personal ambitions that I wanted to fulfill, not because there was anything wrong there. Like, it was just such a great place. But like, having gone from an Ascent to a Novo, I realized, like, man, if there's anything I fear more than anything else, it's going back to a more corporate world.
We're the cog of the wheel, not doing the strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I found, I actually just kind of put something out there about this. I was in my car the other day. I started, it started kind of getting, brain started going. I started thinking about all the challenges I had to do with, with crew club, exec crew, this business, kids crew, all this stuff. I had all these. I'm like, okay, well, I wish I was here. I wish I was here. And the destination anxiety. I actually had a conversation with Brett Shell about this with Cold Bore Tech, and it's one of those things that, like, you always want that next success. You always want that next this, next that. Then I'll be happy. Then I'll be satisfied.
Yeah.
Oh, once I get this title, I'll be good. But a lot of times, I mean, I had to stop myself and realize, look, like, dude, chill out, man. Like, what you're doing now is part of your story. It's part of the process. And JP, even if you were at where you wanted to be at in your mind right now, you're going to want something else if you were there. So enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, enjoy the struggles, enjoy the mindset challenges that you need to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to what I said earlier. Don't chase happiness, chase contentment. Just be happy where you are. I know this sounds really bizarre, but like, there's a lot of research, several studies have been done that have actually shown that the harder you work to try and be happy, the more miserable you are. There's something incredibly unattainable about happiness when you are actively seeking it. But when you're not, you can be incredibly happy.
You know what's interesting? I think this is a good kind of tangent to get on. I mean, that kind of goes down to, I mean, a lot of people are like, defining success, defining happiness. I mean, it's very different for everyone. I mean, there could be, is it a number in your bank account? Is it a title? Is it your lifestyle? I mean, what is success to you? And when did you define it?
I mean, I think success for me is just really easy. It's like, am I making my parents proud? Am I making my wife proud? Am I making myself proud? As long as I'm doing that, then I'm successful. It's one thing that actually, in a lot of ways, has always been the fuel for me. Was just like, even when I was in, grade school, middle school, high school, everything, college, I always made, mostly A's, like A's and B's, honor roll. And it was always because I hated the thought of, like, bringing home a report card and my parents not seeing that. I don't know what it was, but I didn't like the idea of my parents thinking, you can do so much better, right? I didn't want to ever hear them say that. And it's not that they never did say that. They did. I mean, there were times when I genuinely probably did let them down. I let myself down. But like all things, you have to fail in order to know what it feels like to succeed. And it is my failures that have made me, want to succeed even more. Because like I said, I just don't want to ever see disappointment on, my wife's face, my parents' face, my
Well,
kids.
okay, let me ask you a question then. If let's pretend your wife was in the room, your parents were in the room, and all that stuff. Is there a way for you to feel success personally, like without any external attaboys? Isn't it tough?
It is tough.
It's extremely tough.
You know, I think this is actually at the beginning of, I think, a really good conversation, because like, I think knowing what people need is really important, especially as a leader, like knowing what other people need and need to hear. You know, there, it's easy to manage people. All right. It's not easy to manage personalities.
Yeah. Okay.
And what I mean by that is like, people do tasks. It's like, hey, I need this job done. Can you get it done to me by Wednesday? That's easy. I've got this long list of things. Hey, I need geoprogs done for all these wells. I need you to go ahead and put together the development plan. Get that to me, by the end of the week. That's easy.
Yeah.
What's hard is keeping their motivation up and keeping people excited about work and letting them know like what role they play. And some people need attaboys a lot.
Yeah.
Some people don't need it at all. Some people need you to come in and look at their work and brainstorm with them. Some people want you to leave them the hell alone.
And some people like negative reinforcement. I mean, I know
Absolutely, yeah.
when I'm playing,
Good.
like people are like, come on, JP. I'm like, hey, give me positive reinforcement. I'll do a lot
Yeah.
better for some reason.
Absolutely. There are some people out there that view themselves, I think, in this very bizarre way as like a J.K. Simmons-esque, like brutal coach from Whiplash. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
Dude, Whiplash, amazing movie. But yeah, it's like J.K. Simmons gets the best out of, the drummer by just treating him terribly.
Garbage.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen that work. And if it does work, it works to spite you. You
I
know
don't
what I
know if I
mean?
could be a good leader by doing that. I think
No, I
that
don't
doesn't
either.
jive well with who I am as a person.
No, not at all. Um, and trust me, I understand that if somebody steps out of line or somebody does something wrong, you need to be able to go and talk to them and say like, hey, this is unacceptable, or I expect better from you, or you just completely missed the mark here. But I think it's also important to keep in mind, like, you know, what do these people normally do right? Tell them what their strengths are. I always kind of viewed my role as a boss is to maximize people's strengths and minimize their weaknesses, right? So like
Okay.
give them as many opportunities as possible to show off the ways in which they are strong, and give them as few a chances as possible to showcase where they're weak. And you know it's always fared really well for me, but I think at the beginning that always means that you have to take an honest stock. You have to start with yourself. You have to take an honest stock of your own strengths and weaknesses, because in order to know what you need for a group, you have to know what you're not good at, right?
Yeah.
So like for me, it's really easy. I can look through my list and go, okay, I think I'm a pretty good oil finder. I think I have a good track record of finding oil, having successful exploration ideas, things like that. I think
Yep.
my record is very strong there. But there's a lot of technical stuff that I'm not good at. Like I'm going to be 41 here in like a month. Okay. And I feel like at my age, there's a lot of people that are pretty good with computers. Like, I'm pretty good with computers, but I am not great with computers. But people that are like 3 years younger than me, all of them, like 38-year-olds and younger, it's like, they're not really people. They're automatons. Like they just, they're cyborgs. Like they know everything about computers, can do it all. And that was one thing immediately that I absolutely wanted addressed. It's like I would interview people, and when they would start talking to me about the ways that they approached like doing data analytics, or approach doing geology by like bringing data analytics into it, I was immediately like, all right, you're talking my language, because you are going to be so much better at that than I am.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that I am not leaving like a vacancy in our talent pool. I want all those talents to be accounted for. And then once you get that person in, you have a little bit of time to look at them and say like, okay, well, this person is really tech savvy. Or this person's really great at this, but maybe this person sometimes misses big picture thinking or something like that. So then you start thinking about other things you want. So you have to be able to like assess your own strengths and weaknesses, and then you have to be able to assess others. But then once you get all those, you have to be able to manage personalities. You have to transition from managing people and managing their skill set to managing their personality, and you really have to figure out how to get the best out of people. And I think there's a lot of ways in which I've done really, really well, and then there's ways in which I've messed up. It's like I've definitely had, you know, not shouting matches, but I've had my fair share of like,
intense conversations. How
yeah,
about that? Yes.
strongly worded conversations,
Crucial conversations.
yes, crucial convos with people that have worked with me or been under me, because I felt like there was a major disconnect in what my expectations were versus what they were doing. But at the same time, through some of those conversations, I realized that maybe I was not doing something that they needed.
Yeah.
But
that's your
like,
personality. Yeah.
but it is, but that's my personality. But it also becomes my duty as a leader to know that, okay, now I know that you need this from me, or that you felt this way because maybe I wasn't doing a certain thing. And I try really hard to implement that going forward. And so, yeah, I think if you want to get the most out of your people, you have to manage personalities. It's really important.
I think you kind of touched on a good point, and this is not just work. I mean, this is any relationship, whether it's your wife, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. It's a lot of times, you're with someone, or the new hire, or whatever it is. It's like, oh, I love how you do this, love how you do this, and that slowly turns into, hey, you did this wrong. Hey, you didn't do this right. You start kind of nitpicking their performance or their work or something like that, and you forget, or you don't forget, I guess you don't practice to compliment their successes or their achievements, or
Yeah.
your appreciation of how they are part of your team or your family, where that is. And that's such an easy thing to do. And
It's always easy to overlook those things.
It's so easy to overlook those things. I think it's so important as leaders, to not just leaders, as human beings, to identify the good and comment on the good, as much as, probably more than you comment on the areas of improvement that they need to be doing. Yeah. So I think that's a good little tidbit, that little nugget of knowledge, if you will.
Well, what's kind of interesting about it is my wife and I have had these kind of conversations before, where like, in the same way that when I'm trying to put together a team, I'm doing the same thing. It's like, I kind of feel like in my marriage, the reason my wife and I work so well is because she fills in all of my like
lack.
Yeah. Everywhere where there's a negative space in
Yeah.
my character, she fills that in perfectly. It's like between the two of us, we make one really fantastic human being. Maybe independently we're flawed. But what's interesting about it is I acknowledge that both openly and just within the privacy of my own mind. I acknowledge that reality, that like the reason my wife and I are so successful as a couple is because of the fact that we're so different, and because we have independent strengths. And yet for some reason, I never afford her the leniency that I afford other people. When it comes to things, I'm like, I come down harder on her about certain things, and I don't know why. And that's something that we've had to talk a lot about like, I should be giving you more grace than anything else, because I understand you. And I also know that the things you're really great at are the things I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I should be complimenting you much more so than I criticize. Right.
Well, if you want, well, I'll make this a sound bit, and we just play that for her, the sound bit piece for her on repeat.
Yeah, you gotta
email. We'll just do that. That's free of charge. That's a perk of being a guest on Energy Crew podcast. No, but I think that's a good thing. It's like, you're right. I mean, the same thing. Monica. My wife says the same thing to me sometimes. Like, you're this way around. People with me. It's like, I'm like, oh, that's good. I don't even realize it. So I think a lot of it, not just being a leader or just being it's self-reflection. I mean, we all have flaws. We all have strengths. And I think a lot of it is, you're right, it's just communication. It's communication. It's kind of, what drives you, Michael, is not going to drive Adam or Christina. It's all very different. And you're right, you do need to know the personalities behind that.
Well, I think you and I have had this conversation before. It's like, because I think you and I are very simpatico on this. Like, you are very introspective, like I am, and I think you tend to probably overanalyze things in your head, and you probably come down harder on yourself.
Yep.
And it is in a lot of ways, it's a terrible, affliction to suffer from, where you spend too much time in your brain and you criticize yourself too heavily for things. But at the same time, I've always felt like that was actually one of my strengths in a really bizarre way, because I think that introspection, it's why I succeed.
Yeah.
Because I spend so much time thinking about all the negative aspects of things that I actually am so driven to correct them. I just wish that I could correct them without punishing myself the next time something happens. It's like I wish I could learn to give myself a little bit more grace than
Yeah,
I
but
do.
I think that just comes through practice, Michael. I think it's one of those things where it's like, just like, whenever I get at the end of every quarter, I always get in this certain mindset. I always get in this certain mindset that it's not going to happen, it's going to fail, it's not going to continue and all that stuff. And I still have the same feelings. It's not as heavy as it was before, but again, it's a self-reflection. It's giving yourself grace. And it's, whenever you're faced with the same type of emotions or the same type of feelings, when you're kind of in this event in your life or this situation in your life, it doesn't hit as hard. It's still there. The feelings and emotions are still there, but it's not as hard. It's not such an anchor as it was before. But again, that's just being people. It's just being humans. It's us constantly trying to learn about ourselves and kind of how to improve. So you can't beat yourself up too much with that, Mike.
Well, yeah, I try not to, but it just still happens. But like I said, for some reason, I think lately I've been doing pretty well, just not thinking about much, but it is a bizarre thing. I don't know. Sometimes I think that the sale just literally wiped out my brain.
It's just kind of, well, what it's like whenever you go through, and honestly, this is going to wrap it up. We're coming up on an hour right now. It's one of those things, whether it's a wedding, a big life event, or a sale of a company, or starting this, you expect to have this, once you get to that moment, you expect to have this feeling of success and happiness and all that stuff, on a hot air balloon, pretty much. But the realities aren't there. That's not really what happens, and it's a very difficult thing to navigate.
Yes,
it is. So, hey, I want to thank you for your time. Obviously, I guess I'll be seeing you August. I'll be up there in August.
Yeah.
I'll be up there in August for a crew club, and also talking at the Mid-Con Pipeliners thing on August 10th. But obviously, it's always great talking to you. Always enjoy our conversation. I want to thank you for doing this again, for sitting and talking to me for another hour on Energy Crew Podcast. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, and I appreciate your insight, man. I really do.
Well, I think what you do is an amazing thing, man. And I think I like this new format a lot.
You digging it? I think.
Yeah,
I mean, look, I think it's cool. I mean, I think it's more targeted, more fruitful.
Yeah. Well, I think it gives people a chance to talk about. I don't know. I mean, it's not like your other podcast. People didn't talk about themselves or talk about the things in their lives, but maybe this is a little bit more focused, and so they get to kind of, maybe go down some rabbit holes that they didn't otherwise.
And that's where you can learn. That's where you can support. That's where you can grow. And that is the whole point of Exec Crew. That is, you see the little logo? That ties it in all together. So, yeah. So this was the whole, and obviously this whole thought of, the passion fueled mentorship. And honestly, you're an inspiration for this. I've been at tables with you or conversations with you, you and other, people. And once y'all start talking about what inspires you, your inspirations, your passions, and all that stuff, it changes the dynamic of the conversation. It changes the understanding of what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, well, let's start. That's why Exec Crew started. But also, let's bring this to the Energy Crew podcast, because I love these passion-fueled conversations. I just dig it. I think you can learn so much about other people, but also you can learn a lot about yourself at the same time. So I want to thank you for your time, brother. And if you need anything, give me a shout. I'm here. But thank you, everyone out there, for tuning in Energy Crew Podcast. And again, this is Michael Hale, the VP of Exploration over at Novo Oil and Gas 1. And we'll see what happens after that. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Hold on a second.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll talk to you soon.